What happens when the men who make a living hunting human beings discover that for once, they are the ones being hunted? Tonight we're going into the cypress swamps on the Georgia-South Carolina line, October 1863. 5 white men walk into the dark, certain they are closing in on easy prey, a black family desperate for freedom. What they don't know is that someone else is already in those trees, watching them through a rifle scope that has ended more Confederate lives than any regiment in the Union Army. His name, in the whispers that move from campfire to campfire, is Specter. He was born enslaved. He learned to disappear to stay alive. And now, in this war, he has turned that invisibility into a weapon. The slave hunters think they are alone in this swamp. By the time they realize they are wrong, it is far too late to run. The swamp breathes like a living thing that night. Spanish moss hangs from the cypress branches like torn curtains. Fog coils around the roots. The air is thick enough to taste mud, rot, and something metallic that always seems to hang over places where men have died. A thin slice of moon pushes light through the canopy, breaking on the black water in jagged pieces. 5 men move through it with the casual confidence of predators who have never had to imagine what it feels like to be prey. They are slave hunters, bounty men, white men who have built a living on dragging black bodies back in chains to the plantations that claim to own them. At the front walks Abram Kells. His lantern swings in his fist, carving wild shadows across his scarred face. One leg drags slightly, the old wound from Mexico never letting him forget how long he has been close to violence. 15 years in this work. Enough time to kill whatever softness was left. He has a reputation. Never loses a trail, never comes back empty-handed, never cares what condition his captives are in so long as they're still worth money when he delivers them. The plantations along this border call him when things get difficult. Colonel Merritt Clay has called him now. Clay is missing a man. Not just any man. A black railroad worker with hands that understand iron, eyes that understand maps, and a mind that has been quietly opening doors toward freedom for other people on the plantation. $200 on his head. More than most white farmers around here see in a year. Kells spits dark tobacco into the water and grins. Special skills, he mutters. Won't help him out here. Behind him, the youngest of the crew, Levi Hart, drops to one knee. He runs a finger along the edge of a print half lost in the mud. Tracks are fresh, he whispers. Hour, maybe less. Levi is barely 21. A poor farmer's boy with calloused hands, and just enough hunger to believe this job is opportunity, not rot. The others treat him like a mascot. He hears them laugh behind his back. He hopes the swamp gives him a chance to prove he belongs. He grips his revolver a little tighter, imagining how it will feel to drag someone back in chains and see Kells nod at him like a man, not a boy. Rudd Garner adjusts the rope coiled around his shoulder for the 3rd time in an hour. Rudd has one of those faces that already looks tired in his 30s. Too many nights drinking. Too many things seen and never talked about. He scans the trees and cannot shake a feeling that something is wrong with this trail. You sure it's just one we're following? He mutters. Steps too steady. Feels like he wants us behind him. Boone Tally laughs. The laugh comes out as a low rumble from a body built like a wall. 6'4", nearly 300 pounds. Shoulders like an ox that never learned the word no. He carries a double-barreled shotgun, and a certainty that there is no man alive he can't break, if it comes to it. They always run to the water, Boone says. Think the swamp will hide them. We know these trees better than any runaway. What he means is, we have never had to imagine that the swamp might prefer somebody else. At the back, just inside the ring of lantern light, walks Silas Crow. Crow almost never speaks if he can help it. He is the tracker, the one who can follow a trail through 3 days of rain, through burned fields, through places so churned with footprints no one else can tell one man's fear from another. He learned to hunt Seminoles in the Florida marshes before he learned to hunt black people for money. His pale eyes slide over the ground, over broken ferns and bent reeds and marks in the mud, and something in his stomach tightens. This trail is wrong. It is too clean, too deliberate. Not the wild, stumbling flight of someone running for their life, but the measured steps of a man who knows where he is going and does not scare easily. Crow has seen tracks like this before. Not from runaways, from fighters. Men who had been hunted so long, they learned to turn around. The mist wraps thicker around them, swallowing their voices, making the world outside the circle of lantern light disappear. Water laps quietly against cypress knees, and somewhere, far off, an owl calls with a sound like a question no one here wants to answer. The swamp is loud with tiny noises, frogs, insects, something heavy sliding under the surface of the black water. But underneath that pulse, there is another stillness, the kind that means something else is listening. There, Crow finally says, pointing ahead. A faint orange tremor breathes between the trees. Fire. Not far. Abram Kell's eyes brighten the way other men's eyes do at the sight of home. Perfect, he says. Got himself a little camp. Thinks he's safe. He turns, lowering his voice. We circle wide. Take him alive if we can. If not, he shrugs. It still pays. The men begin to fan out, each sliding into a position that will tighten around that distant glow. They move with the smooth efficiency of men who have done this too many times. Levi's heart climbs into his throat with excitement. Rudd's stomach knots in that way it always does right before he does something he'll drink to forget. Boone flexes his fingers on the shotgun, already tasting the power. Silas Crow melts into the dark like smoke. None of them look up. None of them see the figure already high in the branches, pressed against the bark, barely more than a darker shade of shadow. A black man, still as stone, I press to the glass of a rifle scope. He has been watching them for an hour. He knows their voices now. Knows how each one shifts when fear brushes it. Knows how they walk. How they hold their weapons. Which one will break first when the killing starts. His name used to be Elias Carter. The Union Army calls him a sniper. Men in blue camps, huddled around fires at night, call him something else. Specter. The one you never see until it's already too late. From where he lies in the crook of the old cypress, Specter can see everything. Elias Carter's cheek rests against the worn stock of his rifle. His dark fingers are steady on the wood. His breath is slow, measured, like a man at prayer. He watches the hunters drift through the swamp, light the way a hawk watches rats cross a field. Not with anger, with calculation. Elias was born on land not far from here. Born enslaved. He learned early that survival meant three things. Be useful, be quiet, and never let anyone see how much you understand. An overseer taught him to shoot, because he thought it would make a good story to own a black boy who could bring down deer on command. Later, the Union Army put a different rifle in his hands, and discovered what happens when that boy no longer belongs to anyone. On the battlefield they called him Specter, because men would fall, and no one could say from where. Tonight, he is not here for glory. He is here because 5 white men have walked into his swamp toward people who trusted him with their lives. The fire the hunters are moving toward does not belong to the man they were paid to catch. It belongs to a family, a black family, a mother who renamed herself when she ran, a father whose hands can build a house from bare boards, a teenage girl who can read letters she was never meant to see, 2 boys who still believe this journey leads somewhere kinder. They are huddled now around a small, low fire, the flames wrapped in a ring of stones to hide the light. They call themselves the Harpers. Not their slave name. the name they chose for the life after this. Mrs. Harper stirs a thin soup in a blackened pot, root vegetables, wild greens, the last scrap of salted meat. Her husband holds their daughter close, his arm a barrier between his family and a world that keeps trying to claim ownership of them. The older boy watches the trees, trying to copy the quiet vigilance he sees in his father's face. The youngest leans against his mother, eyes heavy, still thinking this is all some long, strange adventure that will end with a home where nobody can sell him. They do not know hunters are closing in. They only know one thing clearly. Specter said they could rest for a few hours. And Specter has not lied to them yet. Elias tracks Kell's lantern through the mist. He has been following this crew since late afternoon, moving from tree to tree, never letting a branch creak, never letting the barrel catch light. He listened when they joked about merchandise, when they laughed about men they'd dragged back half dead, when they talked about what they would buy with the bounty. He measured the distance between them, counted their weapons, noted who watches the shadows and who does not. He knows now who will run, who will freeze, who will fire wild, who will try to think. He also knows this: if he waits too long, the Harpers die. If he moves too soon, one of the hunters might slip away and call more. This is the kind of math war as carved into him. Down below, the swamp begins to hold its breath. The normal noise softens. Even the frogs seem to know something is wrong. Kells raises his hand. The men stop. He points toward the flicker between the trees. Right there, he murmurs. Circle wide. We take them clean. Levi's pulse is hammering so hard he can hear it in his ears. This will be his first capture. He wipes his palms on his pants, tries to steady his breathing, moves exactly as Kells taught him. Low, slow, confident. Rudd slides off to the right, rope ready. Boone sweeps to the left, the shotgun heavy and comforting in his grip. Silas Crow disappears straight ahead, hugging the darkest line between trees, mind still chewing on the feeling that they are not the only hunters out here. From the tree, Elias sees the circle taking shape. He shifts the rifle a fraction of an inch. The scope frames Kell's chest and the swinging lantern that is about to announce death to the people by the fire. Elias could pull the trigger now. End the leader. Let the others scatter. He doesn't. Patience has saved his life too many times to abandon it now. He lets the crosshairs glide from face to face. Levi's jaw is set too tight. Rudd's hands shake at the edges. Boone's weight crushes the reeds under him with every step. Crow's eyes, even from here, are moving constantly. Specter does not just shoot bodies. He shoots structure. If he chooses right, no one reaches the Harpers. No one escapes to warn the next patrol. If he chooses wrong, the swamp will be full of shouting men and panicked gunfire, and the people of that fire will be caught in the middle. At the camp, Mrs. Harper pauses for half a second. The ladle stops. What is it? Her husband whispers. Just quiet, she says. Too quiet. She glances toward the dark beyond the circle of light, where their guide vanished an hour ago. She cannot see him, but she trusts that somewhere in that black tangle of trees, a man with a rifle is listening harder than she ever could. Out in the swamp, Abram Kells lifts the lantern a little higher to give the signal. Around him, his men hold their breath, ready to crash in on the fire like they always have. Above them, hidden in the cypress, Specter exhales. The hunt is about to flip. The swamp hears the decision before any man does. A heron lifts from the water in sudden panic. Somewhere far off, an alligator slips under without a sound. Up in the tree, Elias settles the rifle into the pocket of his shoulder. The lantern in Kell's hand swings up, bright and careless, a little sun announcing exactly where the center of the circle is. Elias chooses. Not the boy. Not yet. The head. Abram Kell's chest fills the scope, the lantern's glow outlining his coat like a target drawn in light. Specter's finger tightens. The first shot splits the night in half. The lantern explodes out of Kell's hand, glass and flame bursting into the dark water with a hiss. For a heartbeat, Kells just stands there, eyes wide, as if someone has punched the breath out of him. Then a dark bloom spreads across his shirt. He folds in on himself without a word, drops to his knees in the mud, mouth opening and closing around a question that will never finish. The man who has spent 15 years hunting others dies without ever seeing the one who came for him. The swamp reacts before the men do. Darkness crashes in where the lantern's circle had just been. Levi flinches, blinded by the sudden loss of light. Rudd shouts something that comes out as a strangled curse. Boone swings his shotgun wildly, looking for a shape to blame. Silas Crow drops flat on instinct. What the? Levi doesn't finish. The second shot answers for him. It hits him before he remembers he's supposed to duck. One moment he is scrambling toward a tree, the next the ground rushes up and the world turns sideways. For a second, face pressed into the mud, he thinks of his father's farm, of debts, of the way Kells said this was easy money. Then there is nothing. 2 shots. 2 bodies. The swamp goes from confusion to terror in a single breath. Rudd Garner fires blindly into the trees, muzzle flashes strobing his fear across the trunks. Each burst of light shouts his position louder than his voice. High above, Elias doesn't hurry. He breathes. Corrects a fraction for recoil. Lets the scope find Rudd's shoulder like it has done 1,000 times on other fields, in other states, to other men who thought uniforms made them safe. The third shot lands like a judge's gavel. Rudd slams backward against the log he thought was cover, the rope sliding off his shoulder into the mud. His pistol falls from his fingers, still cocked, still hungry, with no hand left to tell it what to do. Now there are 2. Boone Talley and Silas Crow. Boone roars into the dark, anger doing the work that courage is supposed to do. Show yourself, you coward. He has spent his whole life as the biggest thing in any room. No room has ever answered back like this. He lunges from behind his log, shotgun up, charging toward where he thinks the shots came from. Boots tearing through underbrush, branches lashing his face. Heartbeat, he must look exactly like the man he believes himself to be. Unstoppable. In the scope, Elias sees something else. A huge target. The 4th shot cracks. Buckshot never fires. Boone stumbles mid-stride, momentum carrying him 3 more lunging steps before his knees give out. He falls heavy, face first, so close to the Harper's camp that Mrs. Harper can hear the ground take him. For the first time, as he lies there dying, Boone sees the people around the fire as more than runaways. A mother wrapped around her children. A father holding his family between himself and danger. Teenagers with whole futures pressed into a single night. The realization arrives with his last breath. Too late to do anything but witness it. Only Silas Crow remains. The tracker has already slid behind a wide, knotted cypress, using the fattest trunk he can find as a shield. He has seen this before in other swamps, under other flags. Not panic. Method. He presses his back to the bark, rifle ready, eyes scanning the black lattice of branches above. Specter, he breathes, finally giving shape to his fear. It's him. His mind races. The shots came from different angles. Whoever is firing is moving between them, fast, silent, never taking the same position twice. Military. Has to be. A sniper trained by men who understand distance and fear. At the campfire, the Harpers do not know names. They only know the sky is breaking. The first shot sent Samuel Harper flat, dragging his family with him. Martha threw her body over the boys without thinking. Rebecca pressed her face into her mother's side, counting heartbeats between echoes. The small fire spits sparks, then shrinks as damp moss collapses into it. "Stay down," Samuel whispers. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." Little Jonah whimpers. Martha's hand finds his hair in the dark. "Hush, baby," she breathes. "Remember what Mr. Carter said. If you hear thunder that isn't thunder, you keep your face in the ground." They do not know if the men falling out there are hunting them or saving them. All they know is that death has come into the swamp and is speaking in single terrifying sentences. Up in the tree, Elias feels the old calm settle over him, the one that unnerved even Union officers. The part of him that is husband, friend, guide steps aside. The part of him the war sculpted takes over. He shifts his weight, quiet as lichen. Crow is the problem now. A panicked man will spray bullets and die. A thinking man might break from cover at exactly the wrong moment for everyone else. Specter studies the angle of the trunk shielding him, the thin sliver of space where Crow's eye will have to appear if he wants to see the battlefield. He waits, counts breaths. 1, 2, 3. On the fourth, a pale cheek, a fraction of an eye, eases out along the bark, searching for ghosts. Elias does not fire yet. Crow see just enough. Boone's body near the fire. Kells crumpled where the lantern fell. Levi and Rudd cooling in the mud. He wants the tracker to understand. You hunted people for money. They died afraid. Now feel it. Only when he sees Crow's jaw clench, the moment fear finally takes root, does Specter let the crosshairs settle. His finger moves a distance so small it barely exists. The rifle speaks, and somewhere very close to the cypress trunk, something heavy hits the water. The swamp holds the echo of the last shot a little longer than the others. Then it lets go. Ripples spread out from the base of the cypress where Silas Crow had been. His body rocks once, face downward in the dark water, then goes still between the roots. The man who could follow a footprint through 3 days of rain will leave no trail out of this place. For 10 full minutes, nothing moves. Elias does not climb down. His eye stays on the scope, sweeping the tree line, listening for the wrong kind of branch snap, the wrong rhythm of breathing. He has learned the hard way that greed travels in packs. Sometimes, the second wave waits for the first wave to do the ugly work. Only when the night sounds begin to return, frogs restarting their chorus, an owl calling again from deeper in, does he let his cheek lift from the rifle stock. The calm does not leave his body all at once. It drains out slowly, like water from a cracked barrel. The war-hardened part of him steps back. The man who has been guiding the Harpers north steps forward again. He checks the rifle one more time, then begins his descent. Boots find the same branches on the way down, each placement deliberate. The bark has memorized his weight. When his feet finally press into the soft earth, the dead men are still worn. Up close, the hunters look smaller. The legends they told themselves in taverns do not survive contact with the mud. Abram Kells lies on his back, eyes open to a sky he can no longer see, shirt soaked dark where the bullet entered. Levi's hand is still half reaching for cover, fingers buried in the dirt like he was trying to claw his way into the ground. Rudd is folded awkwardly against the log, rope tangled around his boots. Boone's massive body sprawls like fallen timber a few strides from the Harper's fire. Silas Crow is mostly water and shadow now, face turned away. Elias does not look away. He has promised himself he will always look. He moves quickly, methodically, kicks weapons out of reach, checks pulses he already knows are gone. Scans each horizon line between the trees. Satisfied, he finally turns toward the small ring of stones where the fire is nothing but an orange breath under ash. The Harpers are still on the ground. Samuel's arms are locked around his family.
Martha is a shield over the boys. Rebecca's hands are pressed so tightly over her ears her knuckles have gone white. Mr. Carter. Samuel calls into the dark, voice raw, not quite believing this could be over. You still with us? Elias steps into the edge of their dying light. I'm here, he says. His voice is low, steady, carrying none of the violence from a moment ago. It's the same voice that has been teaching them how to tell edible plants from poison, how to read the stars through Spanish moss, how to move through these waters without leaving a story behind. Martha twists, dragging herself up onto an elbow.
In the flicker, she sees him fully for the first time since the shooting started. The rifle still in his hand. Smoke stains still lingering near the barrel. Eyes that look older than his 30-odd years. But the way he looks at them is the way he's always looked at them. Not as burden. Not as business. As people. Is it done? She asks. Elias glances once more into the trees, listening with something deeper than his ears. It's done for them, he says. For tonight. Little Jonah peeks out from under his mother's arm. His small voice slips out before fear can catch it. Those the men who wanted to take us back. Elias kneels so they are eye to eye. Yes, he says. They won't be taking anybody anywhere now. Jonah studies him, gaze flickering from the man's face to the long rifle and back again. Are you an angel? He whispers. Martha almost laughs, a sharp, broken sound too close to a sob. Elias shakes his head. His mouth curves, but not into a smile. Just a man who knows how to shoot straight, he answers. And tonight, that had to be enough. The words hang there. Not boast. Not confession. Statement. Samuel pushes himself up slowly, helping Martha and the children to their knees. He looks past Elias, sees the bodies scattered in the mist, and something complicated crosses his face. Not pity. Not satisfaction. Something like the heavy relief that comes after holding your breath too long. You risked a lot for us, he says. We were just hoping to see the far side of this swamp. Didn't know we'd bring all that down on your head. Elias shakes his head once. They were already in my swamp, he replies. You just had the bad luck to be here when they walked in. He lets that sit. Because the truth is, this isn't just about one family and one night. Men like Kells have been walking through these waters for years with ropes and guns and the law on their side. Tonight was simply the first time someone stood in the trees with better aim and a different idea about who ought to be afraid. The swamp has shifted. It feels it. The balance tilted, even if only for an evening. Elias pokes at the embers with a stick, coaxing a little more light from them. We can't stay, he says quietly. Others might have heard. There's a Union patrol not far from here, if they're where they were last week. We move now. We can reach them before dawn. Martha glances at her children, then back at him. She has lived a lifetime under orders. But this doesn't feel like that. This feels like being pulled toward a future she still doesn't quite dare to picture. You lead, she says. We follow. Elias stands, slings the rifle, and for the first time tonight, turns his back on the bodies. Not out of disrespect. Because his work there is finished. The living still need him. They leave the dead men where they fell. The swamp will take them. Moss will grow over the places their boots sank deepest. Roots will drink what spilled. In a few months, only the stories told in low voices will remember that 5 slave hunters walked in here and did not walk back out. Elias leads the Harpers away from the clearing, choosing paths that keep them on hummocks and half-hidden ridges. The fog folds around them. The night closes over what just happened like a lid. For the first mile, no one speaks. The only sounds are water sucking at roots, cloth whispering against cloth, and the quiet tick of cooling metal from the rifle on Elias's shoulder. Jonah stumbles once. Elias reaches back without looking and catches the boy's arm before he falls. You all right, little man, he murmurs. Jonah nods too fast.
His hand tightens around Elias's fingers. He does not let go again until they reach higher ground. Eventually, Samuel moves up beside Elias. "You've done this before," he says quietly. "Not just tonight, not just for us. It is not really a question." Elias keeps his eyes on the barely visible trail. "War's been going on a while now," he answers. "Men like Kells don't stop because some paper in Washington says we're free. Somebody has to stand between them and the people trying to make it north." Samuel studies his profile in the dim. "You ever count," he asks, "how many men you've put in the ground?" Elias's jaw tightens. He shakes his head once. "I count nights families make it out," he says. "That's the only number I can live with." Behind them, Martha hears that and tucks it away like a small, precious thing. Because all her life, numbers have meant bales picked, whippings given, children sold. Tonight, for the first time, a number has meant something else. Night survived. It takes hours to reach the Union lines. By the time the first faint gray of dawn begins to tease the edge of the sky, they hear voices up ahead, carrying across the water with a different weight than the shouts from slave patrols. Organized. Tired, alert, but not hunting them. A call comes through the mist. "Hold there, who goes?" Elias raises his hand, even though they can't see the gesture yet. "Refugees with escort," he calls back. "Looking for the 54th. There is a pause, then a reply with something like respect in it. "You Carter?" "Depends who's asking," Elias says. A line of blue coats steps into view between the trees. Black faces, mostly. Union rifles. Union eyes. One of the sergeants looks him over and nods, slow. "We heard you were moving families throughout here," he says. "Didn't know you were cleaning up the other kind of traffic, too." Elias just shrugs. "Seem the waste," he says, "to know how to shoot this straight and only use it on men wearing uniforms." The Harpers cross that invisible line in the mud that separates Confederate swamp from Union ground. Nothing around them changes. Same trees.
Same water. Same heavy air. But something in their chests shifts. For the first time since they ran, they are standing in a place where the law, however imperfect, does not belong to the men who would chain them. Martha looks back the way they came. The fog has already swallowed it. No bodies, no lantern, no sign of the night they just survived. If she did not feel the tremors still running through her arms, she might believe she dreamed it. Samuel rests a hand on her shoulder. "We keep going," he says softly. "We make sure this wasn't just a story about how close we came." Later, when they are sitting by a new fire under Union guard, Jonah edges close to Elias again. He has been quiet since the patrol found them, eyes wide, taking everything in. "Mr. Carter," he whispers, "you gonna keep doing this? Hunting the hunters?" Elias stares into the flames for a long moment. The light paints old battle scars across his face, pulls tired lines out of his skin. "I'll keep doing it," he says. "As long as there are men walking into swamps, thinking black lives are something they can drag backward for a price." He turns his head, meets the boy's eyes. "And as long as there are families like yours trying to move forward." This is the part of the war that rarely makes it into the paintings. No flags, no speeches, no generals on horseback. Just a black man in the branches of a cypress with a rifle and a decision to make. Just 5 slave hunters learning, for a few terrifying minutes, what it feels like to be prey. Just one family, hands shaking, realizing they will wake up tomorrow, a little farther from the world that tried to claim them. Most history books will not say Elias Carter's name. They will talk about battles, about presidents, about proclamations written with careful ink. They will not talk about the nights in the swamps, where justice came one trigger pull at a time, delivered by a man who had once been property and now chose, again and again, to stand between death and the people running toward a different future. But that doesn't mean he wasn't there. It just means you have to decide what kind of stories you are willing to look for. If someone in your family ever ran, ever hid, ever crossed a line in the dark, hoping the world on the other side would be kinder, hold their name in your mind for a moment. Because men like Elias Carter did not pull the trigger for glory. They did it so that, somewhere down the line, that name could be spoken in the open, without fear, and be recognized for what it survived.